The President of the United States has complained that I'm engaging in some sort of political witch hunt, that I've got some personal vendetta against him, that I campaigned against him. That is not true.
This illegitimate president who sits in the White House.
That president, because he's not my president, he's an illegitimate president. His days are numbered. His days are numbered.
We've got to get ready to mobilize, and we've got to get ready to agitate and irritate until victory is won, but more importantly, until Trump is defeated. We will all rise up and resist this man, and ultimately we'll bring him down. This illegitimate president, I'm going to give you the same level of respect that you gave to President Obama, and that is absolutely no respect at all. Donald Trump has got to go. Hey, hey! Ho, ho! Donald Trump has got to go. Hey, hey! Ho, ho! And the days of Donald Trump are numbered. Lock him up. Lock him up. Lock him up. Lock him up. Lock him up.
That is not true.
New York Attorney General Letitia James has been indicted on criminal bank fraud charges. James is being accused of having falsified records to meet certain lending requirements and receive favorable loan terms. We'll keep up with that story as it develops.
This is nothing more than a continuation of the president's desperate weaponization of our justice system. He is forcing federal law enforcement agencies to do his bidding, all because I did my job as the New York State Attorney General. These charges are baseless, and the president's own public statements make clear that his only goal is political retribution at any cost.
So we got to talk about Letitia James, who back in 2018, I'll refresh your memory if you don't recall, built her campaign to become New York State's next Attorney General around the promise that she would weaponize her power, use her office in order to take on Donald Trump, who was at that point 2 years into his first term as president. As she stood in victory in front of her supporters, she spoke and said, "No one is too rich. No one is too powerful to be placed above the law." And now she's been indicted on criminal charges of mortgage fraud, allegedly. And so in this video, we're going to break it all down, see what both sides have to say. Let's go ahead and first start with exactly what she's being charged with and why, and how legit are those charges. Let's get right into it.
Greg, kind of an irony here. She did claim on this form, according to prosecutors, that this place in Virginia was her primary residence while she's Attorney General.
Yeah, purely on the paperwork that she executed. It's a pretty serious case against her, Sean. You cannot claim an occupied residence, get a lower mortgage rate, and then rent it out. You're cheating the lender by lying. And James actually incriminated herself. Both her mortgage and her insurance documents said she occupied it, but on an IRS records form, she admitted it was purely a rental with zero personal occupancy. Well, it can't be both. That's illegal. Predictably, today she just whined that the law is being weaponized against her. Spare me the moral outrage. It was phony. She was the one who campaigned on the promise to get Trump, then conjured up that ludicrous case only to get slapped down by the appellate court in an epic embarrassment. I think here she's going to do exactly what James Comey is doing, claim selective, vindictive prosecution, try to get the case dismissed, avoid trial entirely. But, you know, under the law, the burden shifts to her to prove by clear evidence that the case has an unjustifiable motive. It is not a defense if the charges are justified, as I think they may be. She'll also claim, of course, oh, it was a big misunderstanding, paperwork snafu, somebody else is to blame. But under her own stated standard in the Trump case, she declared that is never an excuse. So she's hoisted on her own petard, as Shakespeare would say in Hamlet.
If the paperwork states that she signed, stating that it would be a residential property, when in fact it was an investment property in order to be able to receive more favorable loan terms, then she's guilty. And that's not a mistake you make or an error. There's too many I's to be dotted and too many T's to be crossed when it comes to real estate and loans and things of that nature, where that ends up being just some error that you miscommunicated. Maybe she thought she wouldn't get caught. I mean, most of the time when people do things that they shouldn't do, that's what they believe anyway. They're not going to get caught in the act. And maybe she thought that Trump wouldn't get a second term. Therefore, she had nothing to worry about. But obviously, both those things turned out to be false. And so let's go and jump into this next clip now, where Democrats are now, they're complaining, talking about how Republicans, they have the power, Trump using his power in order to take down his political adversaries, which, mind you, sounds very hypocritical when you think about how this all began, with her deciding that she would weaponize her power in order to take down her political adversary. But let's check this out.
So what is your immediate reaction to this news that Letitia James has been indicted by a grand jury?
Yeah, well, obviously I haven't seen any of it. I'm just hearing it for the first time, but it just is part of a bigger trend of the President of the United States using the Department of Justice, using the legal system to go after political adversaries, using the arms of our democracy to go after political adversaries. Whether it's Comey or now James, Lisa Cook on the Fed, Adam Schiff here in the Senate. And if that doesn't send a shiver down the spine of anybody, whether you're a Democrat or Republican, because turnabout, I mean, you know, another administration could be in and suddenly the arms of the government are being wielded against the Republican Party. It's just a broken way to do politics. It's corrupt. And I think that, you know, anyone who cares about the Constitution and cares about our institutions surviving should care that the President of the United States is using Pam Bondi to do his bidding against adversaries.
I think what the senator said right there is very interesting. But why stop at the president using his power to go after his political adversaries? I think that should go for anybody in government. If you're a governor, if you're an attorney general, perhaps, because let's be clear. If it would have been anybody else not named Donald Trump, and definitely if it would have been a Democrat, then Letitia James would not have pursued the case. It was only because it was Trump. And perhaps even more so, she saw an opportunity to be able to bolster her career and use that as a springboard to win the race, which she did. And so personally, I think she thought they're going to either get him behind bars, one, or there's no way that he'll get a second term, so she has nothing to worry about. But the mainstream media, it seems like they can't help their bias when it comes to how they criticize Democrats and what's okay for them to do versus when it comes to Republicans, when it comes to the president. Let's check this out.
Trump did acknowledge that there could have been a mistake on his financial statement when it came to the value of his Trump Tower apartment, but he said that's why his statements included disclaimer clauses. Quote, there's a disclaimer clause where you don't have to get sued by the Attorney General of New York. Is that in any way a legitimate defense? No, the judge already found it wasn't. The judge said, listen, you just can't offer miscalculating or wrong and misleading and fraudulent information and then say, wait, just kidding, do your own due diligence here. You have to be able to rely on what's actually being said. So the judge already resolved that issue. Now, what he's trying to do, though, is suggest, and you can't have both worlds, Jake. He can't on the one hand say he's in control of everything, on the other hand say, look, everyone else told me this and I handed it over and delegated. Both can't be true on a fraud trial.
They have to prove that it's done knowingly. And so
So if it's a mistake that's actually relevant criminally, it has to be if it is a mistake and the person says, look, it's obviously a mistake, here's evidence it's a mistake, then you can't prove intent, and that's important?
They've acknowledged, Letitia James seems not, there was an error on a power of attorney form. They would try to argue that that was no intent of wrongdoing if she was presenting throughout, and the bank itself did not feel it was defrauded because they had the correct information despite one false document.
Well, Jake, the key question, assuming this is in fact a mortgage fraud case, is whether Letitia James intentionally and specifically made a false representation. So as Kara said, now they're going to have to prove their case to a jury eventually beyond a reasonable doubt. And if this is a mistake or something that was done inadvertently, that's not going to be enough to support a criminal charge against Letitia James.
The hypocrisy and the bias of the mainstream media. When it's the president, Republicans is one set of rules. Then all of a sudden, Letitia James, Democrats, a whole nother set. Oh, it was a clear and honest mistake. You know, she didn't mean to do it. It was obviously a mishap, misunderstanding that just needs to get cleared up. And so let's check out this clip, because even Anderson Cooper on CNN, he had to say she didn't have to do this. She didn't have to say she was going to sue Trump, especially without having any evidence at the time.
Jeff, I mean, according to PolitiFact, the day after she was elected in 2018, Letitia James was asked by a community activist if she was going to sue President Trump. And she replied, quote, "Oh, we're going to definitely sue him. We're going to be a real pain in the ass. He's going to know my name personally." I mean, that's not a great look for somebody who has just been elected or just been campaigning, who hasn't even looked, I guess, at deeply at any evidence.
Well, that's, you know, that we live in a system where attorneys general and district attorneys in the United States, unlike almost any other country, are elected officials, are politicians. So they run for office making political statements. That's how our system works. It's not pretty. I don't think it's a great system, but there's nothing uncommon about it. The other point to make, though, is just because she made inappropriate comments, that doesn't mean she should get indicted for fraud years later. I mean, we're not supposed to live in a system of that kind of tit for tat. Criminal cases are supposed to stand or fall on their own merits.
Everything he said about Letitia James, you could say the same thing about Donald Trump. And so charges were brought for fraud, allegedly. So let's let it play out. She got to go through this proceeding, and we'll see what happens from it. And if the evidence holds up, then we'll see what ends up happening as a result of that.
Look, I mean, Letitia James is the absolute worst possible poster child for the argument of selective prosecution. Her entire political career has been on the idea of selectively prosecuting one person, Donald J. Trump. Whether you think the merits of the case are strong or weak, or how you think it's going to play out, going out tonight and crying and whining and fussing about selective prosecution when it comes to Letitia James, who ran an entire campaign saying she was going to go after Trump. The cases she brought, it was only because of Trump. I don't think the American people are going to have too much sympathy for it.
Yes, I think this is just one whole big bowl of hypocrisy. She used her campaign to target Trump before she was even in office, and she made the guarantee that she would then use her position and her power to weaponize it and go after Trump once she won. And I'll give her credit. She did just that. She went after Trump. She actually won. Things got turned over in the appellate court, but nonetheless, she won. And so now to be seeing the entire hypocrisy coming from Democrats, coming from the left, is laughable. And as Scott Jennings said, no, don't use her as the person who you're going to feel sorry for. She's the poster child for using her power to go after her political adversaries. But guys, you let me know your thoughts on this topic. Drop your comments down below. I appreciate when you guys chime in. Don't forget, stick around for the next video where we got another Democrat, this time Katie Porter, the candidate for governor out in the state of California, completely rage quits and loses it over a softball interview with CBS. Stay tuned for that, and I'll see you next time.